Welcome back to informational.com. So today I'm going to deconstruct the rotational pivot. So the pivot is basically the foundational movement for all rotational power. So if you think about any swinging motion such as a tennis forehand, backhand, a baseball swing, a golf swing, etc., you have to be able to pivot on this back leg, which is actually an internal rotation movement of the back hip. All right. So the important thing here is that we maintain a nice neutral spine, and we don't want to keep the feet planted and rotate from the spine. We want to actually be able to shift our weight and basically get all the power from this back hip and going into an internal rotation. So the first thing that we have to be able to do is balance into the finishing position of the pivot. So if I'm standing facing the camera right now, both of my feet are facing forward, I have to be able to pivot and hold my balance in this split stance position. All right, so I'm rolled up onto the big toe, my back knee is slightly bent. My torso is still upright, so I'm not lunging forward at all and putting all my weight in the front leg. I'm actually shifting, I'm unloading this leg to have it face in that direction, and then I'm quickly pivoting on this back hip. So now my foot, knee, and hip are all facing a straight line. And there's actually going to be a little bit of a bias to an out heel or an in toe, and that will get you a little bit more hip internal rotation. All right, so we have to be able to make sure we can get into this kind of pivot position or this split position and be controlled there, or every time you pivot, you're going to not be comfortable there, and you're going to go into something different. You're going to want to keep your whole foot down, which is going to torque the knee, torque the hip, or you're going to want to kind of lean forward onto the front leg, which is going to overload the front leg. All right, so we can do some static holds, split squats, and really try to make sure you get that down. So anything, even from a half kneeling position, making sure that you can get the heel outside of the knee and being solid there, and then coming up into the top of the split squat and making sure that you're also solid there. So that's where you want to start. And then you can go into some squatting movements and finish in the pivot, always slow to fast, where you're trying to really use this back hip as your explosive movement. And then you can do a hip hinge, deadlifting type motion, also up into the pivot. All right, and then we can look at kind of doing some lunging pivots where I'm facing this way, I'm going to step and just pivot back and forth, going from about a 180 degree turn. All right, and then we can start adding some load to it. So a couple different ways we can do this. With a mace here, it's called a grave digger. You get into a position of a hip hinge, like you're shoveling snow or digging a grave, and then you come up and you finish in the pivot. And each time it's an explosive pop. Make sure you got your balance here. You should have some tension in your back buttock, and then you go back down. All right, so initially you want to do this for power, low repetitions, and then you can turn it into more of a flow for higher repetitions. You can also look at doing a medicine ball slam if you have a wall, or if you just have something where you can toss it far. You just load the hip with the ball, and then throw your hip through the wall. All right? Always feeling like you're balanced, and I would always pause in the pivot position in the hole to make sure that you're not keeping your heel on the ground. You're not keeping your knee facing that way, but you're getting yourself all the way facing the direction of your target. And then if you're a little bit more advanced and you're good with kettlebells, you can work on, you got your swing pattern, but you can also work on adding a pivot to your swing. It teaches you how to pop through the hip. It's great for martial artists because it teaches you the hip pop, which you need to throw a punch while you're using a little bit of load. All right, so those are some variations of the pivot. You start with the static positions at the half kneel into the split squat, and then as you get more comfortable with the balance, you get a lot more dynamic with it. If you have any questions, you can go to movementprofessional.com. I'll see you next time.